Hi, Alok.
Hello, Veronica.
Hola, hola during siesta time.
Yes.
Yes. I approached you with the idea to talk about human design and how we are not our body graph. And then your answer just shocked me. Bam! What do you mean we're not our body graph?
Well, we're obviously not our body graph because our body graph, like Ra says in one of his videos, if you don't live what it says, it's just a fucking piece of paper. But if you live what it says correctly, your body graph sets you on a pathway of wisdom and potential flowering, let alone that you're going to live a pathway where your signature is going to be the main driving force. In other words, you become wise with satisfaction. In other words, no need to suffer to become wise. There is a natural way for us to learn. But obviously, the first thing we need to give up for that is the vanity with which we deny the fact that we don't know. And when you don't know, discussing with others does not necessarily get you to know. It just gets you to be confused. I know. I've been very confused trying to become clear by discussing things with others. This is what I love about human design. It gave me something that I needed nobody to discuss it with other than myself. I did not discuss it with Ra Uruhu. I did not discuss it with any of my students. If I have a choice or if I don't have any choice, it's nobody else's business. It's between me and me. Who am I? Am I the one who chooses? Or am I the one that knows that every time I choose the same old fucking rotten distorting thing? Even after I knew, I kept choosing the same conditioning again and again and again for 21 years. I ended up in the darkest places of love because our addiction to our conditioning is, well, bottomless. Bottomless, because if you do not have an experience of just being yourself and feeling that life can sustain you, it's not easy for a human being to step away from groups, communities, people who think like you, believe like you, yeah. And there is too much chicken talk about human design. Human design is something that should lead to silence, not to chicken talk. It has led me to silence. See, when I open my Facebook, I'm a struggler. Oh, I could so get off with most of what I find there. You know what I love? 99.5% of the times I manage to just keep my silence. Let people just continue with their chicken talk. What to do, But yes, we are the body graph. We are not the interpretations that our homogenized mind makes of the body graph. We are not the conclusions that we draw based on the body graph. But everything we are is contained within the structure that the body graph reveals. It's a human structure. Okay. The question is Is it alive in you? Or is it something you just carry in your head? And unfortunately, I know that for most people, they carry human design in their head, because if they didn't, I guess they would be busier with, what it means for them, rather than, heavily insisting in telling others. So yeah, I shocked you, and
so the whole theme that I wanted to go through went bye-bye in a
maybe
way.
not. Maybe we can still go through it, just assuming that we are our body graph.
Because authenticity is not something you can foresee. It's always surprising. And we're so much more than, according to me, than, yeah, you said when you look at the body graph, you see. And still there are things that, unless you're there, unless you're experiencing that other person life, just as you mentioned Facebook, you can never really know what's inside the soul and the perception in the other. Aren't we here to share that? Our perception of things?
Well, it depends. It depends. I am designed to share my perception of things in the flow of changes. Sometimes it is correct for me to share my perspective of things, and other times it is not correct for me. Why? I know that if I do, I'm just going to stir shit that I am not ready to deal with. So I let it be. I don't stir shit that's not mine anymore. I have no interest in that unless you pay me for it. If you pay me for it, I do it with pressure. I'm a master at it. I'm a natural. And not only am I a natural, I have a skill. Now I know how to stir anybody's shit and not be personal. It's not Alok stirring your shit. It's, a bunch of patterns that I'm describing, and that's what you paid me for. So you understand? So no, we're not here to share our perspective all the time. I mean, look at Facebook. That's what people do there all the time, share what they think is their perspective. Come on. There's nothing there that says anything of you other than to which homogenized group you belong. There's nothing singular in your posts. Remember, your profile wall, it's called a profile. It's your profile. It's meant to reveal something of you. And you have human design, about nothing. I mean, nothing, singular, rare, very rare. And it doesn't have to be clear, but at least it's singular. It can sound crazy, but at least it's singular. It's alive. It's alive. And I can feel it when someone posts something and there's a piece of them there. They're alive. They may be crazy. They may not have my skill to explain it in the logic of them, but they're saying something about themselves. That's what communication is about. Everything else, come on, you got it on TV. So, and human design is not an exception as a body of knowledge. It attracts a lot of curious and esoteric and spiritual people. Oh my God. Those who want to heal the work and do good deeds and wash their consciousness with goodness. One of the first things that shocked me about Ra was when I heard him say, I'm not a humanitarian. He was not doing his work as a messenger for humanity. I guess he was doing it because he had no choice. Because if you save one person from living stuck in the nightmare, that alone is a miracle. A miracle. And that's, when you're not a therapist, you did nothing really. All you did is deliver some good information and let the person take responsibility for what they do with it. That's it. See, I was a therapist before I was into this good thing. I have a drive for service. I'm a judge. I have my collective caring. But there was a trap in that. And I could feel it. And I had resistance to it. And I went to see what the hell am I going to do with my life, because I didn't feel good as a therapist. And I met human design and I understood why I didn't feel good as a therapist and why I love to be a human design analyst. I'm not responsible for your well-being. That's it. I'm responsible for my own well-being. Yeah, that's it. And that I found honest, brutally honest. And it so suits my nature with a defined ego and a spleen that knows how to take care of, it's kind of like, there is no problem in life if I don't create one. It's just life. There's been shit in my life ever since I can remember. Shit between my parents, shit between my parents and their parents, shit between my parents and their brothers and sisters. And then it just kept spreading to the neighbors, It's a shitty world, I often say, with sarcasm. Because, see, I don't mean it negatively. See, for me, pessimism is not negative. It's a shitty world because there is 7 billion humans that shit on this planet every day. Helplessly, by the way. Not only that, if you don't shit, you're unhealthy. You understand? So instead of complaining that there's so much shit in the world, why don't you just take care of making sure that you deliver your shit in your own bathroom and you don't go around shitting in other people's bathroom? In return, you don't let just anyone come and shit in your aura. You keep your aura clean from those who don't know where their toilet is. That's what's transforming. That's what I did. Recognize what I do to people with my aura and recognize what people helplessly do to me. How conditioning works mechanically. You see, for me, human design, if it was in my head, I would have never believed it. I still don't believe it. But I never took it in my heart, in my head. It went straight to my heart. Straight. And my heart is honest in the face of evidence. Human design has proven itself to me hundreds, thousands of times. You understand? I even understand why you want to convince people that we are not our bodygraph. I understand that. But it is an anti-human design message in a way. Okay, it's one thing to say we're not our bodygraph if you don't live it. Okay, because if you don't live it, your bodygraph never gets any more simple than gates and channels and current. Come on, I'm one being. My design is split in 3. I'm not split in 3. You understand? I only feel split when I'm in a hurry to make decisions before the time is right. Then I feel scattered. But I've learned to relax, into when and what decisions I need to make, and I've learned to wait, being in the flow for the last moment. Last moment is the perfect moment, because it makes me free to change my mind until the last moment. I don't have to decide, and it gives me time to see all the goods and all the bads that my mind speculates and fears with before I cross the line. So when I cross the line, I already know it's for good and for bad. I know it's going to be an initiation. I know I'm going to learn something. I'm going to learn to be me, more me, until the very end. So, anything that happens in my life serves the same purpose, me learning to be the best version of me that I can. Because that's how I want to die, the best version of me, fearless. And of course, no regrets, I hope. I was never a regretful person. I either learned or let go of whatever I couldn't make sense of. It's all in the living it. If you do not live it, human design is just going to be a fucking piece of paper that keeps you, just feeds the same old anxieties. Change the names. Instead of in the name of the chakras, now you do it in the name of the centers. But it's same mental blah, 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 blah. Living your design, you don't even have to know the channels or the gates. If you just understand the centers, that's why living your design, you get nothing more than 9 centers and 4 types. Because that's where you tune into the holistic frequency of your design. In other words, you become the whole before you integrate the small details. I was very fortunate because, you see, I did not have access to all the information from the beginning. Centers was all I have in the beginning. And the surface of the circuits, the channels, yes. And it was a very slow motion towards, I was 4 years in human design when types emerged. I was 5 or 6 years in human design when the profiles emerged. I was 7 or 8 years in human design when authority, different kinds of inner authority emerged. This was a very slow process with the same holistic thing from the beginning, the 9 centers, and the fact that I'm emotional. I tend to joke with this with my students that, being one of the most knowledgeable humans on the planet in human design, that when I'm in crisis, there's only one keynote I need to remember: patience. All the other names, they make no difference for me. But patience, oh, is that a magic pill? It saves me from feeding my own anger with my mind. Just getting stuck in, things that I don't like, things that give me a bad feeling. It's just the feeling. Most of the time, if I don't get stuck in it, doesn't really touch me, doesn't make any difference for me. And I'm happy to see how it was so easy in the past to just get carried away by any of those insignificant things. Disagreements and stuff. I don't care to disagree with anyone because I don't care for anyone to agree with me. I don't. I'm happy if you just listen to me. And if I respect you, I will listen to you, even if I don't agree. Then again, I'm someone who, I don't just disagree, I oppose you. Okay, not because I disagree, but because you are implying something that it could be about me as well. So I need to make sure that you can think this way, but don't include me in the lot. Okay, I'm not like that. Just because I'm listening does not mean I'm saying yes to everything. Okay, but it's not about agree or disagree. It's about, are we in tune or not? You understand? If we're in tune, oh, I can let you say a lot of things that I don't agree with because it's not about this or that, it's about you. So I hear you, okay? And see, sometimes we say the right thing with the wrong words. I have a good ear for that. If you're saying the right thing, or it feels like the right thing for me, it doesn't matter that you use the wrong words. You understand? That's for me being attuned. I'm not listening to anybody's mind. Look at my mind, hey. I don't have an open mind. I'm not open-minded. I'm open G. You can touch me in my G. In my mind, I'm untouchable. Even I cannot touch myself there. You know, it has its own life.
When you mentioned patience, I remember one of the moments I really could grasp or touch my grasp of what an emotional person is, because I remember asking you once, Alok, in what place of your emotional wave are you now? You know what you answered?
No.
There's no truth in the now.
That would be the answer most of the time. Okay, the only way that you get a different answer is you find me in some extreme of my wave. Okay, then I can tell you I'm fucking happy or I'm fucking angry, you know. But other than that, that's the truth. Most of the time, I am just pondering. You understand it? So there is procrastination. If you think in strategic terms, I'm wasting a lot of time, but I'm not. I'm not. That's how I update myself. It's how I remain in tune with myself. It's how I don't search for anything. I just find myself all the time. I have an inner life. I'm a 1-3. There's always something happening to me. There's always something interesting going through my mind. Not because it's interesting for everybody. It's interesting because it relates to me one way or another. Okay. And then, of course, suddenly, while I'm watching this, I see that there is something, and I see that, well, this is a pattern. This applies to everyone. So I post it on Facebook. It's like, it's just a piece of my humanness. And because it's just humanness, it's not, if you're a generator, it can touch you. If you're a projector, it can touch you. Sometimes it's more specific. Sometimes it's, this is about projectors. Okay. So I don't control that. There is a flow. There is a river of consciousness. And unless I have an aha moment, I'm not looking for something to post. And it's not like I don't. You have no idea how much material I have accumulated in audio, in transcription. I would just need to go there, fish something. But no, it's all coming, when I post it, it's coming out of the oven. It's I don't have this habit of digging up something old. And that's what a good businessman would do. Someone that takes professionalism more serious than I do. Okay, and I'm not saying I don't try to be the best professional that I can, yes, but I only am the best professional that I can when someone's paying me. You understand? The moment I'm not being paid for it, I don't care if I look professional or not. I just care if I'm having fun. So, you know, I can still be inspiring, but I'm no longer concerned with professional codes. You know, I have a defined ego and I know from 6 to 8, I got to be professional here. Okay. But before 6 and after 8, that's not what I do. Okay. So, yeah. And it's, you see, these two open centers in my design, they used to be the source of all my fear, anxiety, and nervousness. And they have become the river of my peace. You know, I no longer look for love or direction. I rest in love, and I am in the perfect place. I live alone, by the way. It's kind of a one-man monastery. But, you know, follow my own rules. So women have access, friends can come, drugs are allowed. Do you understand? This place is my world. And I only meet people mostly that are interested in my world. So, you know, when they come, I only hope it's okay for them if I'm just me. You know, and it's amazing to discover, you know, what it's like to be you when other people love you, let you be. Even on the downside of the wave, you know, and you don't need to explain or. So that's the body graph. I could have never, ever transformed those two centers into the river of my peace without this body graph, ever. I could have never, ever shared my understanding about the nature of being human without this body graph. There is nothing human that does not have a place in this body graph. I mean, I'm going to be 29 years in human design this summer, and I'm still waiting for someone to tell me, here's something human, and there's no place for this in the body graph. It doesn't exist. I mean, I've checked it. Look at my head. If there is an angle where I can discover that what I think to be true is not true, even though it looks logical, my mind will find it. Even if I don't want it to find it, it will. It will. It is merciless. It is merciless with bullshit, including my own, especially my own. You know, it has patience with the bullshit of others. It has no patience with my own. It has disgust for my own. So, because it's not just my mind in the end. My personality is in the gate of mutation. And that's the quarter of spirit. You know, and my spirit is not something I control. It has its fears, its hopes, its humanness, you know, and no beliefs to hold on to. I mean, that's what I was looking, you know, looking for love was also looking for someone to believe in, something to believe in, something to be, to believe that I can be something. Only human design gave me this, you know, not the belief that I can be something, but the belief, the recognition that not being something was being something. You know, that this drive was just my mind, driving me crazy. I mean, totally disconnected from me. It is this body graph that allowed me to recognize I'm an energy type. So I am my energy. I am not my thinking. You know, I'm my breath, I'm my energy, I'm what I feel. My thinking is just there as a side effect of all of this. Fortunately for me, it is mostly unconscious. The only conscious gate I have is the one that is mostly okay with not knowing. And it is a blessing. It has turned out to be such a blessing, this ability of mine to accept that I don't know. And I would rather remain not knowing than believe. Because in not knowing, oh, you can see so much. You can learn so much. You can take in so much in the receptivity of not knowing. So, it was clear to me that human design below the surface was just a bunch of names and this and that. And if you lose perspective, my God, is that mental soup? I never lost perspective. I was overwhelmed by the amount of information in waves. For instance, when I was 12 years in human design, I considered myself already a master of the bodygraph and the mandala. And then he came up with color, tone, base, and motivation, and transference, and determination, and perspective. And so, it all became again very subjective, very mental, I needed time to feel that. I needed time to make it my own. I needed time to see how it works in me. Once I could see it, I was like, now it's just another mechanism that I know how to describe, and that's it. It's just part, it's beautiful. It's beautiful because we have a structure for the mechanics, and we even have a structure for the awareness. That's amazing. That's amazing. You don't find that anywhere else than in the human design system. And there is no human design system without the body graph. So, I think what you really want to tell people is we are not our minds. And the body graph gives you something solid. It says, here's a form. There is life beyond your mind. There is a being in you that does not depend on your mind. It's a life force. It came with the body. It's your nature. It's there underneath all layers of thinking. You don't need to think to be. When you allow yourself to be, you're resting on the back seat of the vehicle and you're allowing the vehicle to be what it is. The body. A body with a receptivity to what's around it. Intelligent body, a sensitive body, a body that is equipped to filter life at all possible levels. We filter food, we call it digesting. We filter oxygen, we call it breathing. We filter other bodies, we call it sex. We filter all the time. We filter auras, and we call it being social. That's what we are, we're filters. Life happens to us. And the body graph explains how you are predisposed for it to happen to you. Okay, it's just that the not-self is trained to think like a manifestor, like a not-self manifestor that always needs to be ahead of the curve, the killer monkey. Use the mind to control outside events. And human design, it's knowledge. Humans only love knowledge when they can use it as power, when they think it is good to change something. And that's the thing. They do not value knowledge that just leads to acceptance of what is. Because for the not-self, the acceptance of what is powerlessness, giving up. You know, when I met Ra, there was a freak in the environment. He was 12, 22, a sunny boy. And he used to ironically call, you know, the human design system, he used to call it the human resign system, you know, which I thought is very funny because it kind of showed his intelligence. And it showed that he knew what human design was saying, because that's exactly the dilemma. Are you giving up by surrendering your personality to the body? And yes, you're giving up a lot. You're giving up your bullshit, though. So if you're attached to your bullshit, if, you know, there is better than, you know, we were all born endowed with the potential to experience truth and love, like you said, that is authentic. You know, a truth that frees you and a love that gives you wings. Not a truth that chains you into discussing with everybody, and love that tastes like shit. You know, that chains you to someone. And it's all in the spirit. It's all in the spirit, because, you know, on the outside, it looks pretty much the same, you know. A couple that has sex and they respect each other, from the outside looks very similar to a couple that has sex and don't respect each other. It's in the spirit. And the spirit, if it's not there when things start, there's no room for it anymore. You can't bring it afterwards. Yeah. Doesn't work. That's why it's about the decision making. Yes. Yes. And that's not about all this mental blah blah that humans talk about when they meet in human design gatherings. It's just, no.
In Bulgaria, we had the big chance to actually study human design with live courses. I think maybe not so much around the world. And it was very strange for us when the pandemic hit and everything had to go online. We started missing all these aura interactions. And at the same time, you said something about these aura interactions, that you lose yourself there. And still, it's addictive.
It is so addictive. It's called the comfort zone. You know, human beings are gregarious, and generators are more gregarious than anybody else. Penta and Wa have this power. They provide security. They provide a sense of belonging. They provide, you know, it protects us from our own darkness, so to speak. But the truth is that if you want to meet the light of your spirit, or you have to embrace your darkness, because the spirit does not want to choose between darkness and light. You know, the spirit just wants to be in life as it is. Because you see, life is perfect. It's the world that is a mess. It's a shitty world in a wonderful life. You understand? So if you don't know how to separate, you know, life is you. It's you on a journey. The world is you with people. It's human. Life is not human. Life is more than human. Life is not a bodygraph. That is true. Yeah. But the world, you can fit the whole world in the bodygraph. See, this is what I love about the bodygraph. It's the world. It's not just the human. You look at my design. Don't you see my family there, sitting on those 3 sacral activations pointing at the G? Don't you see the weight of the penta and conventional thinking You know, this is how I became a repressed manifestor until I met Osho. That's what I see when I look at a chart. You know, don't you see my 45? Well, that's how I connect to the Wa. Don't you see the 14? That's how I connect to the Wa. That's how I know if I became something of value or not. You know, that's how I measure what I could be that is of value. That's how I learned to compare my value to homogenized standards, measure my value by homogenized standards. I wanted to be, I wanted to find a profession because there was no other way for me to have an identity. At least I will be a doctor, or I will be I'll be something. If I can't be someone, at least I'll be something. It's all there. This is someone who does not know what to be. And Ra, in 45 minutes, he just pierced through it. He just pierced through it, It was also the perfect moment. I was ready. I was ready. But no, if Ra was alive, I have a few questions I would ask him. But one of the most intriguing ones is, why did you not start explaining everything through the Penta and the Wa? Because then the not self is so much easier to understand. How everybody becomes distorted before they even know it. Okay, I would ask him that. Because that's where you can see that, there is no way to avoid being conditioned. You would have to be born to your mother only, with your father not being there. Because if your father is there, you already have the we. The moment you have the we, your father and your mother start arguing with each other like they never did before you were born. Because the moment there is the we, your mother has the idea of we that she learned in her family. And your father has the idea of the we that he learned in his family. And because they had different parents, there is no way they will agree on what's the best education for you. So you have the perfect setup for another miserable family that makes it through. Because that's what the family is. So we learn to survive in the world. It's where we learn to live with shit on a daily basis, with people we hate on a daily basis, with people who hate us, or at least act like they hated us, because they do nothing but just push, remind us of our duty, and we remind them of theirs. That's not self. That's what we all learn. Duty. That's how we learn to think. And of course, if you're driven by duty, you're also driven by the fear of not being up to your duties. When the engine of your intelligence is fear, oh, I know, because mine has been moved by fear for most of my early life. Mamma mia, what a mess. I was such a mess. Good that I didn't know it. Okay. So, yeah. Mastering oneself sounds good, but there is no mastering oneself if you don't master your mind. Mastering oneself and mastering your mind is the same thing. It's the recognition that my mind has nowhere to go without my emotions. That my mind is just an echo of what I feel. Particularly mine, because it's defined. It's fixed, They're not separate. They're the same thing in two different times, One has the ability to connect the now to the yesterday. The other one is just between now or never, somewhere between the past and the future. There's always a now, you know. And I am loosely aware of the now. In other words, there's my root. If anything happens that I need to jump or the spleen, the root is there. But mostly I float in a timeless space. You know, Ra gave me this key one day, timeless. And it was like, yes, exactly. That's what it is. You know, there is no time. I was actually yesterday, I was talking to someone, sharing with them something I saw inside of me. That, you know, with human design, I have become such an expert. I really understand the mind. And I understand the personality. And I understand the psyche. And they're not the same thing. They're not the same thing. Yeah. Or they are, but they have three very different appearances. In other words, the personality can be enslaved by both the psyche and the mind, distorted by the psyche and the mind. You see, the psyche is what links the mind to the body, and that's mostly emotions. It's mostly emotions. You know, how our emotional state affects our thinking unavoidably. Unavoidably. You know, and that's what strategy and authority balances, by the way. You stop feeding frustration, you open yourself up to satisfaction, you open new pathways, neural pathways in your brain. You know, you record new registries of what's possible for you, you know, when you are not compelled by mental habits. So, but you know, there has to be a thirst to know for yourself. Test it by yourself. Don't believe it. Don't discuss it with those who believe it and those who disbelieve it. So if you look at the knowing circuit, you see the weak point there. The pressure to prove the value of what you know. You don't have to prove the value of what you know to anyone other than for yourself. It has to work for you. And if it works for you, who cares? Don't try to make it a law for everybody. This is the worst thing a knower can do. Generalize about his knowing. You know, all you can do is speak for yourself. And that's difficult, it seems, for the not self to do. You know, to take the risk of maybe you're crazy. Maybe you know. Maybe knowing and being crazy is not so different. In other words, maybe crazy is okay. If your craziness is an expression of your satisfaction, it's very different than if your craziness is an expression of your frustration. Do you understand? But being crazy and being unique is pretty much the same. Because being unique means you think in a way that makes agreeing unimportant. Because you're not thinking for everyone. You're not thinking for others. You're just thinking for yourself. And that's what you see. It's what you tell yourself. That's the truth that you know. That's it. That's enough. That's enough. But that's difficult for human beings. You know, it takes humbleness. It takes humbleness to know and just leave it be. You don't have to tell people how much you know. You know, you don't have to just trust your fractal. You know, wait for someone to require your knowing. because it so changes how they take it in, you know. And yeah, human design, it saved me. That was my test. See, I saw what it was. I couldn't believe it. It was like, what? Me? Why me? You know, what's so special about me that I meet this guy and I'm the first Spanish person, and this guy and I, we know what humanity is about, and everybody else is wrong. And everybody, you know, nobody ever knew what we're about as humans. It's like, wow, fascinating, but also crazy. You understand? It's like, or even Osho, you know, had his own not self. It was like, wait a moment. What if I'm just crazier than you? You know, what if you're just crazy and I'm crazier than you are, and we're just two fools? You understand? I am designed to be skeptical. I'm not designed to be a believer. I have a problem with believing. But this thing was amazing. So there was only one way to know, and that was get into it. And test it. See, just, and that's what I did, you know. And well, right now, I don't have to think of human design. I am human design. All my thinking is within this structure. You know, I cannot think outside of the structure of the mechanics of the Maya that I so perfectly understand. And I'm so thankful. And I'm so sorry for those who are stuck in their heads with human design. But I know there's nothing I can do for them. It's just that. You know, I work with those who knock at my door. Somehow they seem to be attracted. They come. I don't know from where they come, who they told them. If they don't tell me, I don't even ask.
You mentioned that you would have several questions to Ra. I'm sure everybody has questions to Ra if he would reappear. And then I wondered, what do you think his first question will be to you?
Oh, I don't think he would have any question. He would ask, how are you doing? Probably. How is it going? You know, he was not someone to worry about anything or others. I don't think he had a question. I think he would just smile. And in my inner life, I know I have his poster here. And when I look into it, he looks straight into the eyes of the camera. So it looks like he is looking straight into you, like he always did. And he seems to be telling me, good, Alok, you're doing good. I mean, I'm basically doing what he recommended me to do. Just be on my own. You know, I am an independent teacher. I represent his system. I represent his school. But more than anything, I represent myself. And there's no conflict. That's the beauty. There's no conflict in representing him, representing the school, and representing myself, my own understanding. And that's a lot more than I would have dared to ask for before I met human design. I had no idea that such a thing could exist. Such a way to look at human nature and the human condition in such a demystified way. I've went all the way. I've tested every layer. The fucking thing is so consistent that, oh yes, we are this bodygraph. I don't think I would have ever being able to accept the nature of the world with all of its misery if I didn't see the helplessness that's behind all of it. We're driven, we're programmed. The program is not interested in our awakening. We are the only ones who could have any interest in our awakening. Other people don't give a damn about your awakening, and the program certainly doesn't. All suffering of humanity serves humanity's purpose, getting smarter. And we have reached a point where we are too smart for our own good. We are so smart that afraid is the only thing we can be. We're too smart to be happy, too smart to enjoy, too smart to allow ourselves to feel anything. And that's how it goes. That's not new. That's how it has been. Transcending that is an exception. And curiosity is not enough. You have to thirst for it. You have to thirst to at least make sense of yourself. And not use the world to excuse and justify your own miseries, which is what the not-self always does. There's this line that says, misery loves company. We love to share our misery and think, people in church praying to God, they're sharing their misery and their fear. And they think they're doing something holy, but they're just being miserable together. And then going, oh. And of course, if that's the best you can do, it's better than war, better than go around killing each other. But it does not take the human spirit to flower and say, wow, life is quite something, and not just scary. Not just scary, but it's an incredible journey, very colorful, very rich, full of texture. But it's individual. Human design is all about the individual. So that's every time I hear about the human design community, something in me gets the shivers. Because if you belong to the human design community, you'll never wake up. You'll be stuck there, envious of those who are successful, struggling with others, trying to get the newcomer to have the reading with you instead of with, give me a fucking break. Like anybody selling merchandise in the market. That's not how fractal consciousness moves. You don't have to look for your fractal. It finds you. You just have to be where you would be if your mind would not be driving you in this trying to become what you're not, trying to be better than you are. And not trusting the process. Just trust the process. Like I trusted the process when I met human design. I risked it all. I took loans. And then I had to pay them back. And it wasn't always easy or possible. I had to borrow money sometimes. But I was never tempted to take another job. So that was my test too. In the end, there was always ways that would compensate for, balance me out. And it didn't take very long until I was earning a bit more than I needed. To just keep going. And I knew that if there was anything to human design that was real, my success was unavoidable. It was just a matter of time. Because I knew that nowhere else in the world do you get what you get in human design. This much I did not know of it, at least. And after 29 years, I'm certain of it. You know, I look at very intelligent people looking for how consciousness works, and you know, they're missing out the most essential thing. That to understand how consciousness works, you have to be conscious of yourself, because you are the observer and you are the observed. You know, if you separate yourself from the observed, you will see a lot of things, but not how consciousness works. And then in human design, you have it's there. You see how it works. You know, it's a magnetic process. It's a holistic process. It's a monopole process. It creates illusion. And the illusion is real. It's alive. In other words, the fact that it is an illusion does not mean it's false or fake. It means it's only you who perceives it this way. No one else. When you understand that only you see things the way you see them, agreement doesn't mean anything. Do you understand? Agreement just means we're different. Yes, there are some things that are the same for you and for me, relatively speaking. But it's just relative agreement, because in absolute terms, we are not like anyone else. There's no point in agreement, really. There's no point in discussing truth, because there's no way you could know my truth. There's no way I could explain it to you. As a matter of fact, when I explain it, it's no longer a truth, it's an explanation. It's just how it works. It's how the mechanics unavoidably limit our perspective. Now, if you accept this limitation, if you recognize it, if you don't pretend it's not there in you, it's only there in others. Others have a limited perspective, you don't. Then you can start using your human intelligence in a human way, you know, not pretending to speak in the name of some God or some morally superior entity or something. You just speak about yourself. And that's good enough. You were mentioning earlier authenticity. I don't think I ever look as authentic as when I'm angry. Which means, you know, I was feeling very authentic many times while I was being my not self. I was feeling very authentic when I was being a super slave to my family and my friends. Do you know what I mean? That's how I knew myself. So I was authentic within that frame. I had no idea of what was possible for me beyond that frame. So authenticity sometimes is just a matter of temper. You know, people with temper, they seem to be more authentic. They're just more dramatic, but not necessarily more authentic. Because for me, being authentic is recognizing yourself as the author of whatever you put out. And not only what you put out as a manifestor, how it impacts others and how it is then, how it comes back at you. Because that's how things work. So, you know, in the name of being authentic, I did a lot of dirty work for others. You know, like just putting somebody else's shit out to a third person. You understand? Just becoming the spokesperson for the we. Okay, and getting angry as a member of the we with it. So, see, the thing is, authenticity is only possible when human beings meet one-on-one. Because the moment there is three people, why do you think there is this saying that says three is multitude? Because the moment there is a third person, this third person brings with them the whole of civilization. You understand? They are hearing what you are telling someone else, and it's not meant for them. And because it's not meant for them, the only thing they can do with that is interpret it. You understand? So the moment we operate in the three, everybody's wearing a mask. The mask that makes them appear to be a lot more civilized than they really are. You know, it makes them appear to be a person that has nothing to do with who this person becomes when they embrace the beast that they carry or that drives them, because the beast is in all of us. So yeah, over time, it has become so obvious to me because the logic of it is so overwhelming. And you just need to look at it. It's everywhere. It's everywhere, these group dynamics. It's not, it doesn't matter which three, it's not personal. It's not personal. It's just how we are programmed. You know, the Penta and the Wa are two hidden agents of the program. We're not aware of when we become part of the mass. We're not aware. We're just carried away by those influences. And that's being human, at least from the seven-centered perspective, which is a perspective where mind rules. The nine-centered perspective is one where mind does not rule. But to take power away from the mind when you have nothing to replace it with, good luck. Or when you have something to replace it with, but you don't know if you can trust it. Because until you try it, until you live it, how can you trust it? You understand? I didn't know if I can trust informing until I informed. And I realized that when I informed, it did not mean everybody likes it. No, but it showed me very clearly who's there for me and who isn't. Who is interested in me and who isn't. Who is interested in me, even if I'm not ready to be their slave. And who isn't. Who is only interested in me if I'm ready to play slave for them. I followed that track, you know, assuming the risk that, you know, maybe I'm left all alone. Yes, as it happened, I am all alone now. But I'm not lonely or isolated or cut off. I feel very loved, you know. I'm alone because I want to. I know there is a lot of people who would love to meet me, hang out with me, have a chat with me. And I know I could enjoy them under circumstances. But I don't need to. You know, I can chat with myself and I don't get bored. You know, if I get bored, I just move into something else. And that's beautiful. It's beautiful because I know my role in the world of human design. I love it, but I'm not hooked to it. You know, it's how I make my living. The rest of the time, I just enjoy that I know how helpless I am. I just enjoy being a guy at home, making his place beautiful. You know, trying to keep the dog entertained, calling my brother, just enjoying being human, living a human life, not expecting any miracles to happen. You know, in a way, there is a daily miracle, which is the miracle of me being perfectly at peace with being so alone. You have no idea. I mean, how rare it is to have people in my aura compared to what's normal. You know, I don't go out of the house every day. Not every day someone comes. Sometimes my partner comes, she stays for a week or two. But there's always this, just the totality and me and this wonderful place that life has prepared for me. And well, I feel as blossom can be. You know, I could write 10 more books. I wouldn't blossom anymore. Do you understand? If I don't write any of those 10 books, I'll have the same amount of flowers. And maybe I don't have the same amount of money, but I'm going to have the same amount of flowers. I tell you that in my spirit. And that's beautiful, to understand the paradoxes of knowledge not being power. And that human design is not there to change the world or to change the way groups diminish the individual. That's never going to change. That's never going to change. You know, groups are always about the individual giving themselves up to fit into the we. I know, because who I think I am is fully immersed there. You know, I know there is a fascist inside of me. There were times where I was looking for that one truth that is the same truth for everybody. You know, I didn't know which one it was, but I thought there should be one, you know, because otherwise, how is there ever going to be order in the world? Wow, what a blessing to accept that chaos is just as natural or ordered. I would say even more natural than order, because the human ideas of order are all imaginary. We only care about order if it's convenient to us. We don't care what we need to destroy so we can have our order. It's just part of the movie. It's just part of being human, you know? And it's good and bad. Without that blindness, we would have never organized ourselves to be able to go to the moon, things like that. We would have never been able to have this kind of communication like we're having now. So, you know, I love humanity, but I don't idealize it. You know, I don't expect it to be godlike. No, I know they carry as much devil as they carry God. And I know that, you know, they're possessed by those things. It's just human. If you don't know yourself, you are at the mercy of those things. Unfortunately, with human design, knowing oneself is no longer a spiritual abstraction. It's a very precise map. And at least when it comes to my design, it fits me perfectly, both in its light and in its shadow. So, like Ra said, you know, if human design can wake up Alok, it can wake up anyone. Because I was not especially enlightened when I met him. I was just one of many. Looking for a way to be, a way to live. And well, I found it. It's spectacular what it can do. And the funny thing is, you know, Ra didn't do it for me. I did it. Yes, he was there. He played his role. He didn't play it for me. He played it for himself. You know? So the same way I see it with some people who receive this information with me, you know, when they need something, they show up, they come, they ask, Okay, I deliver, but I don't follow them. I don't measure if they're more enlightened, and yes, they're not my business. And yet, over time, the feedback that they give me is, the same that happened to me is happening to them. And it's them and the knowledge. It's not me. It's just doing what I did. See how it explains what happens to you on a daily basis. Seeing how your mind works, seeing, the many fears that you carry that are just fears, they don't define you. And it's a real shame that carrying all of this potential, it tends to be something that just feeds mental curiosity. But there's a saying that says, you can't bring people to the water. You can't force them to drink. So that's what I do. You pay me, I give you the information to the best of my ability. What you do with it afterwards. I enjoy being so absolutely careless. Not my business. It freed me from being a salesman. It freed me from being someone who is on duty caring for it. No, I care when it's correct for me. And then I care for you like for me. And when it's enough, it's enough. Then I expect you to care for yourself. Because, I'm not a cosmic caretaker. You only have the second gate, but it's your personality sun, right?
Yes.
Okay. Defiance. Well, it suits your claim that we are not the bodygraph.
I feel humbled from all you said and really thankful for you willing to share it.
You have no idea what an arrogant asshole I can be. I mean, much worse than you think. And human design has managed to humble me. I'm a 1-3. I have the line of humbleness. It's the 35-1. It's my experience. I bent down to the form any moment. I already was doing that before. As a disciple, you go down, you put your head on the ground. You put your head on the ground. And you see, maybe it's the good thing about having your personality sun in an open center. If you have a shitty personality, it's easy to surrender it, It's like, it's easy to see, anything will be better than this, because I had a bad temper. Even I didn't like to be the way I was, to be what I became. It was just driven. It was clear to me that that was not my best version. But what to do, I knew that saying I'm sorry, just no, doesn't fix anything. I'm emotional. There's things that take a lot of time to learn, to master, to accept, to go through them and let them be what they are, not dramatize them, not give in to the history, just accept. And there is darkness. My mother passed away last year. Things were happening in the family. Nothing nice. But nothing I could change. I mean, nothing I could do other than just get angry. And it was like, no, no way. No way I'm going to do that. So I accepted it. Painful, sad, but that's how it is. That's how it is. That's what family is. It's not, you know, it's holy shit. That's what family is in a way. It's holy shit. It's holified shit. And I've learned those things. I've learned how we use the family to hide. It's very basic stuff, and no one can free you from there. No one can free you from those attachments if you don't rid yourself of them and trust that something is possible for you that doesn't have to be fueled by attachment or fear, basically. And the many ways in which fear can manifest. But it's the greatest challenge a human being can take. It's clear to me that living your design is entering a shamanic process where you're going to confront all of your fears. If you have some understanding, you will realize that either you confront them or you're going to live with them until you die. So, which fear demands being confronted? Which fear may not need to be confronted? Your strategy and your authority takes you layer by layer by layer by layer, and you learn. But if you don't take on this pathway from the beginning, oh, it's going to be very, very difficult to make a fresh start in your relationship with the human design knowledge. And at this point, it's so widespread and so many people misrepresenting it that it will be more and more and more difficult. You know, because those who are actually living it, they don't preach so much. You know, they don't say much, because that's the first thing that you need in big conditioning. You don't really know. You don't really know. You don't really know until you know. But you stop believing. And you stop functioning driven by beliefs. And that's a radical change in the movie that you perceive. Following your strategy is for every day. It's not just occasionally. Otherwise, you're not really assuming what human design says. If it's an absolute, it's not something you can avoid. It's not something you can change. It's there every day. So I don't think that that's how people see their body graph. You know, I think that they see it as something relative, some kind of advanced horoscope, you know. And it's not. It really is not. It's not. It's totally different. Yeah.
I did this interview for the people out there. I wanted to show them Alok beyond the body graph. But I got so much out of that myself. I'm just amazed at how things work. I just needed to hear what you said today after what happened to me the past few days. So, wow. Human design is not a path, it's a journey.
Sure, it's a journey. That's a way to live. And you got the rest of your life to get it. But you have to start by living it, because otherwise there is nothing to get. there's no change. There's just more information in your head. But if you behave like you used before the information, nothing is going to change. Nothing. Nothing. You're just going to excuse and justify what you excused and justified before in different terms. Oh, it's my 36. It's like, yeah. It's being very banalized. And it's a shame. It's a shame. I know that Ra was sad about, he was happy that the message was out, but he didn't like the way it was received. He did not like, I don't know, maybe he was just a way of being self-critical when he told me that the teaching has failed. I could agree with that and not. I think there is many people that learned with Ra where the teaching has not failed. Okay, but then in general terms and how, we all know what it has become. And maybe nothing in this world can expand without suffering the deterioration of being in contact with the mundane. Okay, but see, that's just human design on Facebook. It's not the only one. There is nothing mundane in my work. And the people that come for a read, they feel that. So I live on that. I've done human design, proved itself to me, and I respect it. I so deeply respect it that I don't care what others do. I don't have to. I have had the best reference possible. I learned it from someone who also didn't care what others do. So, yeah, but it's sad. It's sad to see that, even people who've been a long time in human design have difficulties in embracing the absolute. You are unique, you have no choice. Love yourself. The simple, because as a synthesis, human design is actually meant to make things more simple, not so complicated that you end up wishing that there wasn't a bodygraph, because no, that's just the way the mind deals with it. This bodygraph represents the structure of being, which is, as simple as things can get. Being human, just be. And it's there. It's there in the imprinting. But you have to get your own mind out of the way, and that's unlearning. Unlearning is a hell lot more difficult than learning. And that's why it is so difficult for most to actually decondition and to move beyond. And again, I think that there's misjudgment in that too, because I think that human design, by its graphical nature, it brings relief right away. But now relief is not the same as awakening, So I don't know. I think everybody has their own process, and it's legitimate. I don't enjoy discussing. I never did. And I don't think I'm about to start. I'm happy that I have been capable of maintaining myself on my own. No organization behind, nobody promoting me, no, just me. And the fractal that has grown out of my dedication. So, you know, it frees me from having to have any concerns for what everyone else is doing. As a 1-3, I never really, it's not where my attention naturally goes. Okay.
Okay. In these strange times, is there something you want to finish off?
How about goodbye?
Okay. Farewell, and thank you
I
for the
mean,
talk.
there is one thing I can underline, which is human design system is a solo movie. It's you and your mind. And then there's life. And life is not human design. Human design is you and your mind. And then there is life. And for me, it was always clear. Human design is between me, and then there is life. And then there's the people who pay me to have access to, okay. That's how my mind was transformed from being a torturer to be a blessing. You know, to entertain me, to, in a way, pay for my living. You know, it has become a tool. It's a solo thing. And it takes time to break through our own mental barriers. But, you know, strategy and authority and signature, especially if you are an energy type, they tell you right away if it works or not. So, you know, if it works, you keep going. You just keep going. But it takes integrity, and it takes great determination, and it takes thirst. You don't get to know just because you want to. But if you don't want to, you'll never get to know. You know, the truth, I mean, you have to want to know the truth for yourself, just so you can rest in your spirit. Because then you will put everything into something. And in my own experience, I used to think that, you know, the good teacher makes everything, but it doesn't. If the disciple isn't ready, you can have the best teacher, nothing's going to happen. And if the disciple is ready, you can have a bad teacher, and it can be enough to wake up the disciple because they're ready for truth, and the truth is there, it's not from the teacher. You know, if you're ready to realize your own truth, anything can do, just a small push, and you're there. And if you're not ready to take that on in your spirit, then 1,000 explanations will not do it. I know because I see it in my own students, you know, it's like I taught the same course. Some just go like, wow, they got it. Others didn't. Why? It's a mystery to me. So yeah.
Life works in mysterious ways.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. You see, until you embrace this solo movie, you don't really see who's there on your fractal. It's not community. It can be a stranger to the community. It can be someone you never imagined. You understand? But it starts with you not holding on to any community. Just being, you know, be a member of the community, but don't let the community define you. There's an art in this. Following strategy and authority is the natural way to do that. That's why you eliminate the resistance in the community, because you're not against the community. You're just being you. And that's nice, because in the community, there's so much hypocrisy. And if you find someone that dares to be them, it's nice. It's nice. You know, it's nice to be authentic and not make fuss about those who aren't authentic. You know, when being authentic is a privilege and not a moral duty. When being authentic is something you give yourself, not something you demonstrate to anybody. They may think you're not authentic. But you know, what they think is not what moves you. And that's the only way. If you are not ready for this kind of confrontation with yourself, then you should stay away from human design. Because it's not going to do you any good.
Okay.
Okay, goodbye.
Goodbye. I'm
I
gonna,
don't have the 42. I'm very bad at endings.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm very good at them. So I'm gonna put an end to the recording now.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.